My boss said I wasn't VP material until I left, and his company started collapsing Reddit stories. 15 years of emergency fixes and silent sacrifices were dismissed as experience. The moment I walked away, the systems I held together began failing all at once. Hi, I'm Cole, 43, and 3 weeks ago I found out I wasn't VP material, from a man who couldn't organize a filing cabinet without scheduling 3 meetings about it. For 15 years, I was Bridgewater Freight's unofficial emergency hotline. Blizzard shutting down 3 mountain passes? Call Cole. Wildfire smoke grounding the fleet? Call Cole. $1 million account ready to walk because someone in upper management forgot a review meeting existed? Get Cole on the phone. The joke around the office was that if the building caught fire, Warren, my boss, would ask me to put it out while he drafted an email about it. 2 years ago, Warren told me I was next in line for VP of Operations. Just timing, he'd say, tapping his temple like he was sharing a great secret. You're the future here, Cole. Future. Right. What I was, apparently, was extremely convenient. Take last February. Warren promised a major manufacturing client, Hartley, that we could handle a massive expansion in shipping volume. He didn't check capacity. Didn't check routes. Didn't check literally anything other than the reflection of his own teeth in his office window. 3 days before launch, Hartley called me directly because Warren wasn't answering emails. I rebuilt the entire system in 72 hours. Saved a $28 million contract. Warren presented my plan to the board as his strategic vision. Got a bonus for it so big he bought a boat he named Synergy. And I didn't complain. Because I believed, really believed, my shot was coming. Then came that Friday. Warren waved me into his office, fake plants, laminated teamwork posters, the smell of someone who never once sweated under pressure. He sat down, folded his hands, and delivered the news like he was telling me they were out of granola bars in the break room. The board decided to pause the VP expansion. Economic pressures. Pause. That word hit like a dull hammer. I reminded him he'd sent me a calendar invite labeled VP Transition Planning 3 weeks earlier. He blinked, shrugged, and said, "Things change. Besides, you're excellent at being the guy we call when something breaks. That's not VP material. Be grateful for the experience we've given you. Be grateful." 15 years. Nights. Weekends. Missed family events. Carrying a department Warren couldn't explain if he had a teleprompter. And this man told me to be grateful. Instead, I told him thank you for the update, calmly, the way that scares people, and walked out. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I went to my office, opened my email, and replied to a message from a competitor I'd ignored for months. Still interested in talking? I typed. They responded in 4 minutes. We've been waiting for you. The next morning, I walked into Apex Logistics headquarters expecting a polite chat, maybe a feel-you-out conversation, maybe even a "we'll let you know." Instead, I got Nathan. You know how some executives look powerful only because someone ironed their shirt for them? Nathan wasn't that guy. He had the calm of someone who actually knew things, dangerous things, like how the industry worked and how to spot incompetence wearing a $900 suit. He shook my hand. Cole. Finally. Finally, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment, like he'd known I'd hit my breaking point before I did. He walked me to a glass-walled conference room, closed the door, and dropped a folder in front of me. Inside were printouts of my work. Stuff I'd shared at conferences, articles I'd written, diagrams of crisis protocols that Bridgewater treated like disposable napkins. He tapped the winter logistics plan I'd built in 2019. We teach this to our coordinators, he said. Your work has saved us millions. I blinked. Bridgewater never. Oh, I know, Nathan said with a small smile. That's why you're here. Then he slid a contract toward me. Not a promise. Not a hypothetical. Not a "when the board approves." A contract. VP of Regional Operations. Full authority. Salary that made my Bridgewater paycheck look like a part-time dog-walking gig. Signing bonus that could replace Warren's boat and the trailer he kept it in. Equity. Autonomy. Respect. I'd spent 15 years waiting for a maybe. They offered me a yes. When do you need an answer? I asked, even though my brain was already packing boxes in my Bridgewater cubicle. Today, Nathan said. But honestly, I think you already know. And he was right. I picked up the pen and signed. He shook my hand again. One more thing, he added. Good people follow good leadership. If there's talent at Bridgewater worth saving, send them my way. I didn't respond because I knew what that meant. Bridgewater wasn't ready. Warren wasn't ready. But the collapse had already started. He just didn't know it yet. And I, apparently, was the first domino. Sunday night, 11:47 p.m. I hit send on my resignation email. 2 attachments. A clean, professional 2-week notice. A 14-page transition memo so detailed it could run the company if anyone competent was left to read it. At 11:52 p.m., 5 minutes later, I was locked out of every Bridgewater system. That told me 2 things. Warren had been waiting for this. He was more afraid than he pretended. By Monday at 8:32 a.m., I was sitting at my new desk at Apex, sipping actual good coffee, when my phone buzzed. A message from a former colleague. I just resigned. Effective immediately. I'll follow you anywhere. I stared at it. Then another came in. And another. By 10 a.m., 3 senior coordinators, all top performers, had quit. No one had talked to me. No one had been recruited. They just jumped. Because the only thing keeping them at Bridgewater was me, and I was gone. That's when the meltdown started. By noon, my phone lit up with frantic messages from the people who stayed. Cole, nobody can find the winter routing protocols. Cole, Hartley is calling. They want to talk to you specifically. Cole, the new interim lead doesn't know how any of our systems work. Cole, Warren says everything is under control. It is very clearly not under control. Then came the first missed delivery. Then the second. Then the third. I wasn't even trying to watch the collapse. The collapse kept finding me. The turning point came at 2:47 p.m. when my phone rang. Warren. I almost declined. Almost. But curiosity won. I answered. He didn't bother hiding the panic. Cole, we need to talk. 3 weeks ago I wasn't leadership material. Now my absence was tearing through the company like a sinkhole. What do you need? I asked. He swallowed hard before saying it. I need you back. There it was. 15 years too late. Warren didn't ease into it. He didn't negotiate, posture, or pretend he had leverage. He sounded like a man clinging to the edge of a cliff with 2 fingers and a prayer. Cole, listen, this isn't about pride. We're in trouble. Serious trouble. I stayed quiet. Silence is kryptonite to men like him. He rushed to fill it. Clients are panicking. Deliveries are delayed. The board is demanding answers. And these resignations. Cole, 3 senior coordinators in one morning? That's not normal attrition. That's coordinated. It's not coordinated, I said. It's what happens when you treat good people like spare parts. He either didn't hear me or pretended not to. Look, the board has approved reinstating your promotion. Full VP of Operations. Title, salary, equity, all of it. Effective immediately. We'll beat any offer Apex gave you by 20%. Just come back. Today. Please. Please. I almost felt bad. Almost. You told me I wasn't leadership material. I reminded him calmly. That was a misunderstanding. No, it was very clear. He exhaled into the phone like he was deflating. You don't understand the position I'm in. I can't fix this without you. That's the problem, Warren. You never learned how. Another long silence. Then, Cole, be reasonable. 30 days. Come back for 30 days. Stabilize operations. Train the new team. After that, if you still want to go, you can. We'll support the transition. 30 days becomes forever. I said. We both know that. He lowered his voice. If you don't return, this collapse is going to land on me. The board is already asking questions. Ah. There it was. The fear behind the fear. What should I tell them, Cole? He asked quietly. What do you want me to say? I didn't sugarcoat it. Tell them the truth. That you had 15 years to promote the people holding this place together, and you chose not to. He inhaled sharply. Don't do this to me. I didn't do anything to you. I said. I just stopped doing things for you. I hung up before he could respond. Apex's office was quiet. My new team worked efficiently, happily, without fires to put out or chaos to brute force. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. For 15 years, Warren thought I was infrastructure. Turns out, I was load-bearing. And he'd just removed the only support beam he didn't know he had. Bridgewater didn't explode overnight. It rotted, quietly, rapidly, predictably, because Warren had built the entire operation like a Jenga tower made of wet cardboard and confidence. 3 days after Warren's call, my phone lit up again. But not from him, from the people still inside. Cole, nobody knows how the Hartley backup chain works. Warren is blaming you. The interim coordinator rerouted freight through a carrier you blacklisted. Total disaster. We just lost another client. A big one. Cole, it's bad. Really bad. Meanwhile, I was at Apex reviewing next quarter's expansion strategy with Nathan, actual leadership work, when a notification popped up in our industry channel. Breaking: Bridgewater Freight faces operational strain after multiple senior staff departures. I didn't click it. Didn't need to. I already knew the plot. By the end of week 1, 4 more coordinators resigned. By the end of week 2, Bridgewater had missed so many deadlines that 2 major clients suspended their contracts. By week 3, they'd lost both outright. $59 million evaporated in 6 business days. Warren sent another message. We need to meet. Please. Just tell me what you want. Name it. I didn't reply. Because around this time, the board finally woke up. Not because they cared about employees. Not because they cared about Warren's decisions. But because nothing motivates corporate governance like the sound of millions disappearing into a flaming crater. So the board hired an outside audit team. And they started digging. Deep. At Apex, Nathan stopped by my office on a Friday afternoon. You're trending, he said, dropping a report on my desk. It was a summary of Bridgewater's public filings, late notices, service delays, penalties. I didn't do anything, I told him. He shrugged. You don't have to. Systems reveal themselves when the person holding them together walks away. He paused. And when leadership promoted someone unfit. He didn't say Warren's interim pet project's name. He didn't have to. By week 4, the board had compiled enough evidence to form a picture. Repeated mismanagement. Nepotistic promotion patterns. Operational incompetence. Questionable mentorship meetings with the interim analyst. Email trails that painted Warren as a man who valued the wrong things very loudly. They called him into a closed-door review. He didn't walk out with his job. Word traveled fast. By the next morning, Warren Thomas removed as VP of Operations at Bridgewater Freight. My phone buzzed. A coworker texted. They fired him. Holy hell, Cole. They actually fired him. Another. They said the phrase. Conduct inconsistent with fiduciary responsibilities. That's corporate for. Pack your stuff. Bridgewater was officially leaderless, bleeding clients, losing staff, and staring down legal scrutiny. And me? I was preparing for a Monday meeting about system expansion, sipping good coffee, in an office where people actually respected my work. The irony wasn't lost on me. Warren didn't believe I was leadership material. Turns out, either did his employer. The day Warren was fired, you could hear the ripple across the industry like someone had dropped a shipping container into a kiddie pool. By noon, trade forums were buzzing. By 3 p.m., 2 analysts posted breakdown videos. By 5 p.m., even LinkedIn, the blandest digital oatmeal on earth, was subtweeting Bridgewater with phrases like, "Leadership stability matters." I wasn't gloating. Okay, maybe a little. But mostly, I was stunned by how fast the truth unraveled once I wasn't there to duct tape it together. The next morning, I got a call from someone I didn't expect. Bridgewater HR. Not the mediocre internal rep who once told me, "Just be patient, promotions take time." No, this was an external firm hired by the board. When companies bring in outsiders, it means 3 things. Someone screwed up. They screwed up badly. Legal is nervous. The investigator, a woman named Sharon, spoke like someone who collected inconsistencies the way other people collect stamps. "Mr. Carson," she began, "thank you for agreeing to speak with us. We're conducting a review of recent transitions, operational failures, and leadership decisions at Bridgewater." Translation: "We're trying to figure out how the hell everything fell apart." She asked about my experience, my responsibilities, my relationship with Warren, the promotion timeline, the interim analyst suddenly put in charge of operations. Then she got to the real question. Do you believe any staffing or promotion decisions were influenced by personal relationships rather than business considerations? There it was. The thing no one wanted to say out loud. I kept my tone professional. I can't speak to their private lives. But I can say the interim coordinator was placed in a role she wasn't qualified for, and the outcomes reflected that. Sharon typed for a long time. Thank you. That aligns with other information we've gathered. Aligns with other information. That meant they'd uncovered more. Probably much more. Before hanging up, she said something that stuck with me. For what it's worth, multiple employees cited your departure as the moment they realized they could leave, too. You should know that. I wasn't expecting that. After the call, I stepped outside the Apex building. The air was cool. Quiet. No ringing phones, no emergencies, no Warren pacing like a trapped raccoon. Nathan joined me a moment later. "Heard you got pulled into the audit," he said. "You heard fast." He shrugged. People talk. Especially when an entire company unravels in under a month. We watched trucks roll down the corridor, efficient, smooth, predictable. The opposite of the chaos I'd left behind. Nathan sipped his tea. You know what the board sees now. They see what happens when the wrong person is empowered, and the right person is ignored. I didn't respond, but I knew exactly what he meant. I had been the structure. The quiet stability. The invisible architecture of the entire operation. And Warren had spent years convincing himself I was replaceable. Turns out I wasn't. Not even close. 1 week after Warren's firing, Bridgewater's board sent out an internal memo that leaked online in under an hour because, let's be honest, corporate secrets travel slower than freight but faster than dignity. The memo said 3 things. Interim leadership would be appointed soon. A full audit of operational processes was underway. All employees were encouraged to cooperate. You could practically smell the fear through the screen. But the part that hit like a punchline? They asked former employees to participate in the Organizational Clarity Initiative. Organizational clarity. A polite phrase meaning, tell us where the bodies are buried because we think they're under the conference room. I ignored the request. I had no interest in being their historian. But Bridgewater wasn't done with me. 2 days later, I got a message from an old colleague. Let's call her Hannah. Her text started with, "Holy crap, Cole. You need to see this." Then she sent me a screenshot. It was Bridgewater's job postings page. At the top, Vice President of Operations. Salary, competitive. Requirements, 10+ years logistics leadership experience, proven crisis management, strong operational strategy background. Under it, 3 newly posted roles: Senior Regional Coordinator, Crisis Logistics Specialist, Capacity Planning Lead. Every single position mirrored responsibilities I had handled, or that the coordinators who resigned had performed flawlessly. They weren't filling gaps. They were rebuilding the entire operational spine of the company. Then came the kicker. Hannah sent another screenshot. An email from Bridgewater's CFO to all staff. We acknowledge former employees were underutilized and underrecognized. Moving forward, we aim to rebuild trust and restructure compensation and leadership pathways. Underutilized. Underrecognized. Warren would have swallowed his stapler before letting those words into a memo. But the universe wasn't done delivering irony. At 4:13 p.m. that same day, my phone buzzed again. A number I didn't recognize. Corporate area code. Cole Carson? A professional voice asked. Yes. This is David Chen. I've been appointed interim CEO at Bridgewater Freight. I'm reaching out because we'd like to discuss a consulting contract with you. Consulting? I almost laughed. He continued, Your name came up repeatedly in our review. There's interest at the board level in engaging your expertise to stabilize operations while we restructure internally. Ah. There it was. They didn't want to hire me. They wanted to rent me. For damage control. At premium crisis rates. What's the scope? I asked, more out of curiosity than anything. We're thinking a 90-day engagement, he said. Daily oversight, strategic rebuilding, transition planning. Whatever you believe is necessary. And your budget? We're prepared for a competitive offer. Competitive. Industry code for expensive but necessary. I kept my voice even. My consulting rate was in the transition memo I sent when I resigned. A pause. $4.50 an hour? Yes. Another pause. Then, we can work with that. Of course they could. Bridgewater wasn't just bleeding, they were hemorrhaging, and I was the only one who remembered where the tourniquets were stored. But here's the thing. I didn't leave Bridgewater to become their emergency contact again. I didn't leave to save them. I left because I finally understood I deserved somewhere that didn't set me on fire to keep the executives warm. Thank you for the offer, I said. But I'm not available for consulting at this time. David exhaled sharply, not annoyed, more like someone realizing he just lost the last lifeboat on a sinking ship. If you change your mind, he said quietly, we'll make room. I ended the call. Nathan, passing by my office, raised an eyebrow. Bridgewater? Yeah. Let me guess. They want you to fix what they broke. I nodded. He chuckled softly. That's the burden of competence, Cole. People assume you'll save them just because you can. I leaned back in my chair and looked around my office. Sunlight, quiet efficiency, a team that respected me, a boss who valued me. For the first time in 15 years, I was in a place that felt like a future. Not a holding pattern. Not a maybe. A future. 3 days after Bridgewater tried to hire me back as a $450 an hour human band-aid, something happened that I absolutely did not expect. Former clients started calling me directly. Not Apex. Not my office line. My personal phone. First one was Hartley, the $28 million account Warren nearly vaporized last year. Their operations director, a woman who once told Warren he had the strategic depth of a wet napkin, called me at 7:12 a.m. Cole, she said without preamble, please tell me you're not going back to Bridgewater. I'm not. Good. We want to move our entire western corridor to Apex. This quarter. Is that possible? I nearly choked on my coffee. Maybe. That's a lot of volume. We'll pay what it takes. You kept us functioning for years while they pretended to supervise you. We'd rather work with someone who actually understands the business. That call set off a chain reaction. A tech manufacturing client reached out. A medical supply company followed. A distribution chain in the Midwest emailed that they were evaluating new partners. All of them said the same thing. You were the only reason Bridgewater worked. We want to follow the competence. It was surreal watching it happen, like the universe had spent 15 years whispering wait, and then suddenly grabbed a megaphone and screamed go. Nathan found me staring at my phone, stunned. Good news? He asked. Potentially huge, I said. But also, I feel weird about it. Why? Because I didn't mean for Bridgewater to collapse. I didn't sabotage anything. I just left. Nathan nodded slowly. Cole, people don't realize how much weight they carry until the day they put it down. Bridgewater fell apart because you were holding up too much for too long. I didn't respond. He put a hand on my shoulder. You're not responsible for their collapse. Warren is. That should have made me feel better. Instead, I felt something else. Not guilt. Not satisfaction. Clarity. Bridgewater didn't lose clients because I left. Bridgewater lost clients because they never realized how much work I'd been doing to keep them. That night, Megan, my wife, leaned against the doorway as I typed up a preliminary onboarding outline for Hartley. You look lighter, she said. Do I? She nodded. You don't hunch at your desk anymore. And you're not rubbing your forehead. And you're not coming home like someone kicked you in the ribs emotionally. I laughed. Wow. High praise. She smiled back. You know what it is? You're not waiting for someone else's approval anymore. You're finally in a place that sees you. And she was right. For the first time in 15 years, my value wasn't theoretical. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't a carrot Warren dangled over a cliff. It was real. Concrete. Respected. Later that evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Cole, it's Maya. Please don't delete this. I need to talk to you. Maya. The interim analyst Warren pushed into my role. The one at the center of the investigation. The one whose name was whispered in every hallway and meeting room. I stared at the message for a long time. Then another bubble appeared. I didn't know what he was doing. Not at first. But I think you deserve to know the whole story. I sat up straight. Because suddenly the collapse wasn't just incompetence or arrogance. It was something deeper. Something intentional. And Maya wasn't texting me out of guilt. She was texting me because something was still burning at Bridgewater. And she wasn't getting out without telling me what lit the match. I didn't respond to Maya's text right away. Not because I was angry. Not because I wanted to punish her. But because the timing made every alarm bell in my brain go off like a 7-alarm fire. People don't reach out at 10:41 p.m. on a Wednesday unless their life is burning down. Someone threatened them. They're about to confess something they should have said months ago, or all of the above. 3 minutes later, another message came in. I'm not trying to drag you into anything. But everything's coming out anyway. And I don't want to be the only one holding the bag. There it was. Fear. Not the oops I messed up a routing spreadsheet kind. My career is about to get incinerated and I need someone to know the truth before the explosion hits kind. I finally replied. What happened? She responded instantly. Not over text. Please. Can you talk? 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I called. She answered on the first ring, voice shaky like she'd been crying or holding tears back for hours. Cole? She whispered. Yeah. What's going on? A long exhale. Then, I'm being scapegoated. And Warren, he's telling HR I manipulated him. I sat forward. Manipulated him? Maya, the investigation already found. I know what it found. She cut in, voice breaking. But you don't know what he's telling them privately. I didn't say anything. She continued. He's saying I seduced him. That I pushed for promotions he didn't want to give. That I misled him on operations data. He's trying to make me look like some kind of unstable opportunist. Jesus. Classic Warren. When faced with consequences, lie, deflect blame downward. Maya, I said carefully, are you saying the relationship was? It wasn't a relationship, she said, almost choking. Not really. Not the way people assume. That sentence hit harder than I expected. She took a shaky breath. He hired me right out of grad school. He told me he saw potential in me. That he'd mentor me personally. That he'd fast-track my career if I worked closely with him. I closed my eyes. I knew where this was going. And then? I asked. And then, she whispered, he made it clear what working closely meant. My chest tightened. He didn't force me, she said quickly. Not physically. But he controlled every part of my advancement. Every project, every opportunity, every piece of visibility. And when someone controls your future, their suggestions stop feeling optional. A sick heaviness settled in my stomach. She kept talking. I told myself it was temporary, she said. That once I proved myself, I'd get promoted based on merit. But he never intended to let me succeed. I was a prop. A reward. A distraction. Whatever he needed at the moment. And when the company started collapsing after you left, he panicked. He pushed me into your job, something I told him I wasn't qualified to do, because he needed someone he could control. Her voice hardened, just a little. And now that everything is falling apart, he's saying I manipulated him into all of it. That I fabricated credentials. That I misrepresented experience. That he didn't know any better. He's rewriting history, I said quietly. He's rewriting me, she corrected. Silence stretched. Then she added, voice barely audible. And Cole, he's telling the board that you were the one grooming people behind the scenes. That you cultivated loyalty in a way that undermined him. That you orchestrated the resignations. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. He said what? He's saying you sabotaged operations by creating a cult dynamic with the team. That you encouraged people to depend on you so everything would fall apart when you left. Her voice trembled. He's trying to shift all the collapse onto you so he can keep his severance. I felt something cold and steady settle behind my ribs. Not anger. Something sharper. The feeling you get right before a very necessary confrontation. Maya, I said slowly, why are you telling me all this? Because HR is interviewing people this week, she said. And Warren is telling them that you and I coordinated behind the scenes. That I pushed for decisions to impress you. He's painting both of us as unstable. She paused, breath catching. And Cole. I know what Bridgewater does to people when they want a scapegoat. I've seen it. I don't want to go down alone. And you don't deserve to go down at all. The room was dead silent. Then she said the line that made my whole body lock. He told them you threatened him once. That you said you'd destroy him if the VP role didn't come through. My jaw clenched. I never said that. I know, she whispered. But they don't. And he's persuasive when he's desperate. I rubbed a hand over my face. Okay, Maya. What do you want from me? Nothing, she said quickly. I'm not asking you to defend me. I just needed you to know what's being said before the investigation reaches your name. A beat. And I'm sorry. For stepping into that role. For everything that followed. I didn't understand what he was setting me up for until it was too late. Her voice cracked again. I don't know who to trust. I exhaled. Maya, I said quietly. I believe you. She made a small noise, like a muffled sob. I don't know what happens next, she whispered. I do, I said. Because in that moment, something clicked into place. Warren wasn't just spiraling. He was setting the stage for his final survival move. Take down everyone around him before the ship sinks. But he forgot something. I hadn't survived 15 years of his incompetence by playing checkers. I'd been playing chess. And he just exposed his king. The next morning started before sunrise. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because my phone began lighting up like a runway at O'Hare during a storm. 3 missed calls from Bridgewater HR. 1 voicemail from their legal department. 2 texts from former colleagues. Dude, HR is asking questions about you. Something's up. And, Cole, they're trying to pin the collapse on you. You need to be ready. Ready? I'd been ready since the day Warren told me to. Be grateful. At 7:42 a.m. My personal email pinged with an official notice. Request for statement, investigative review. Bridgewater Freight, HR Compliance Division. They wanted me to appear, virtually, for an interview. Today. The wording was very formal, very sterile, very corporate legal panic mode. As part of an ongoing review concerning decision-making processes, leadership conduct, and potential violations of internal governance. Translation. Warren's story wasn't holding up, and now they needed a new villain. I read the email twice. Then I smiled. Because this was the moment I had been preparing for. Documenting, saving emails, storing calendar invites, keeping every receipt of what actually happened. Warren wasn't wrong about one thing. People talk. But evidence talks louder. At 9 o'clock sharp, I joined the call. A panel appeared on the screen. 2 HR reps, a compliance officer, and someone from the board I recognized by reputation alone. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Avery. One of them began. Cole Avery. Not. Cole. Not. Thank you for your 15 years. Always a good sign. We want to ask a few questions regarding your departure and subsequent employee resignations. Of course, I said calmly. But before we begin, I need to state that I am represented by counsel through Apex's corporate legal team. This meeting is being recorded on my end as well. A noticeable shift in their posture. Professional fear has a very specific silence to it. Yes, the compliance officer said carefully. That's fine. Great, I said. Let's start. They began with softball questions. Why did I choose to leave? Did I encourage anyone else to resign? Was I aware of internal instability after my departure? I answered each one cleanly, without hesitation. I submitted a detailed transition memo. I offered paid consulting services for continuity. I did not recruit, solicit, or encourage anyone to follow me. My voice stayed steady. Let them hear their own problem. Then they moved to the real reason for the meeting. Mr. Avery, the HR director said, we've received statements suggesting you made threats regarding your promotion. Specifically, that you told Mr. Hargrove you would destroy him if you were not advanced to VP. I actually laughed. Not a big laugh. Just a small, incredulous breath. No, I said. What I said, verbatim, was that I needed formal authority to manage the responsibilities I'd been performing for years. That conversation took place on April 19th at 4:12 p.m. I have the calendar invite and the follow-up email where Warren confirmed the VP role was already approved. 4 faces blinked. 4 people realized I didn't come into this unarmed. Then the board member spoke. Mr. Avery, did you feel your promotion was delayed for legitimate business reasons? I tilted my head. Well, I said. According to Warren, yes. According to Bridgewater's own budget documents, which include the VP role as an approved line item for FY24, no. I watched them freeze. They didn't expect me to have that. Next question. Are you aware of any inappropriate conduct involving leadership during your tenure? Ah. There it was. The landmine. And I stepped around it exactly the way attorneys dream about. I am aware, I said carefully, that several decisions made at the VP level did not align with performance metrics or operational needs. I expect your internal investigation will reveal whether those decisions were influenced by personal relationships that created conflicts of interest. 4 sets of eyes widened. I gave them nothing defamatory. But I didn't shield Warren either. Then the compliance officer spoke. Mr. Avery. Maya has come forward with additional information. Ah. So she done it. Good. The investigation is ongoing. The officer continued, but her testimony aligns with concerns raised in your exit interview. Perfect. I had predicted that. Finally, the HR director asked, Mr. Avery, is there anything else you believe we should know? Yes, I said simply. And I dropped the grenade I'd been holding for years. I tracked every operational system I created for Bridgewater. I own the intellectual property behind the Winter Protocol, the escalation frameworks, and the routing algorithms. They were never signed over. I licensed them for internal use while employed, but they are not Bridgewater property. Dead silence. And then, Mr. Avery, the board member said, voice suddenly hoarse. Are you telling us that the systems Warren presented as his own accomplishments are yours? Yes, I said. And I can provide timestamps, authorship records, and third-party documentation to verify that. The HR rep swallowed. The compliance officer clicked something on his screen. The board member leaned forward. And for the first time in 15 years, I watched Bridgewater realize who actually kept the lights on. When the call ended, they thanked me like someone thanks a surgeon who just stabilized a patient they'd accidentally shot. I closed my laptop. Megan walked in, saw my face. How'd it go? They're about to have a very bad week, I said. But they finally know the truth. Good, she said softly. Maybe now they'll see who the real problem was. I leaned back in my chair. Because the collapse wasn't over. In fact, this was just the part where the wreckage hits the sunlight. Bridgewater collapsed faster than anyone predicted. The auditor's report leaked, first internally, then everywhere. Warren's leadership, the fabricated performance metrics, the personal relationship he tried to hide behind corporate jargon, the retaliatory promotion delays, the operational failures he blamed on everyone but himself. It all came out at once. The board terminated him publicly. Not reassigned. Not retired. Not moving on to pursue new opportunities. Terminated for cause. The equity he bragged about for years? Gone. His severance? Gone. His reputation in the industry? Evaporated like spilled jet fuel on a hot runway. I didn't celebrate. Didn't pop champagne. Didn't post anything smug online. I just went to work at Apex the next morning like it was any other Thursday. By then, 5 more clients had reached out asking for onboarding timelines. 3 coordinators from Bridgewater applied to join my team. 2 were hired by week's end. Nathan stopped by my office with a folder. Congratulations, he said. For what? He tapped the folder. Your division will be the largest operation in the company by the end of Q2. You built something that people want to follow. That's leadership, Cole. Funny. 3 weeks earlier, Warren told me I wasn't leadership material. Now I was overseeing a team twice the size of the one I left. Built on trust instead of fear, collaboration instead of control. That night, after the kids went to bed, Megan handed me a glass of bourbon and curled up next to me on the couch. You did the right thing, she said. I didn't set out to destroy anything. She smiled softly. You didn't. Bridgewater destroyed itself the moment they undervalued the person holding everything together. I looked at her, then out the window at the quiet street, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not triumph. Not vindication. Not revenge. Just the quiet certainty that I had finally stepped into my own life instead of someone else's shadow. A week later, I got one more email. From HR at Bridgewater. A single line. For what it's worth, we should have made you VP years ago. I didn't reply. Some acknowledgments arrive far too late to matter. But they do make one thing crystal clear. I was never the infrastructure. I was the foundation. And when the foundation leaves, everything built on top of it eventually falls.